All right. So I reorganized some of the notes. Let me do a student view here. So all the videos are under pages. There's a PowerPoint there too. It's all under pages. And then modules right underneath that, that just reorganizes it. So for those of you that haven't taken exam 1, that's all the material. Now that might look like a lot, but it's like it's on there twice, right? Endocrine system PowerPoint, adrenal glands on there. Endocrine system, adrenal glands on there. And then adrenal gland again, right? And then you might even find it a 4th time on the October 26th lecture. So it's like, you know, some of this stuff is just a repeat. For quiz 2, because that's probably why most of you are here, for quiz 2, this is everything you're going to need. So this is just the PowerPoint. And then this is like the first section, like that, right? And that's actually, this probably is going to be all the questions for your test. The life cycle of erythrocytes, that is actually on exam 1 as well, if you haven't taken it yet. So remember, that's the part about where does the, I should put that back. Hold on, well, I can't right now. I'm gonna put it back. There, all right. I stuck it back there because that's on the, that's on your exam, where you should know it for your exam. So, okay, so where are we? This is everything you need, quiz 2, right? The only thing that I might ask again is the question about the red blood cells, you know, what happened when they die, and we're gonna go over that now. So let me go over everything that we're gonna have on the test, and I'm gonna kind of blow through it. Let me just make sure you're all still on here. You are. All right. If for some reason I get disconnected from you guys, if you could just text me. So I'll keep my phone by me. Sometimes I get disconnected and I just keep going and there's nothing there, right? So if the screen freezes, if you don't hear my voice for a few seconds, just send me a text. Okay. So here we are. We talked about this. I'll skip this slide. This is just saying that, you know, you have plasma and then you have formed elements. You know, this is the plasma and then, or this is the plasma, and then these are the formed elements. And then if you look at the plasma, there's 3 plasma proteins that I wanted you to know, and I have this on another slide. Bam, right there. So for quiz 2, you need to know the plasma proteins, right? So these are proteins that are sitting in your blood. Fibrinogen, that's going to come back in about 20 minutes. So they're going to be involved in your in clotting. Globulins, they're globulins. So when we get to the immune system, we're going to talk about those. And then albumin, we're going to talk about albumin Wednesday. So they're involved in, well, they're used for a few things, but one of them is transport. So no, we don't need that. That's a shape of a blood cell. There's a little platelet, right? Platelets aren't even cells, they're just like pieces of cells. Who's coming in late? Back to it. You don't need to know this for the quiz. I'm just kind of showing you, and I don't even know what I'm showing you. Oh yeah, that's so red blood cell or an erythrocyte, the nucleus gets ejected from it. So it used to be a cell it used to be an actual cell, but by the time it's a red blood cell, an erythrocyte down here, it's not really a cell anymore. It's just masses of hemoglobin. But there was this erythropoietin, which I was calling in the lecture epigen, and that's one of them, and that increases red blood cells. Really, it increases what are called proerythroblasts, and that ends up increasing red blood cells. Increases platelets. So look at platelets here. I'd like you to know this. Platelets come from these large cells, which you can read right here, called a megakaryocyte. And so megakaryocytes actually splinter into 2,000 to 3,000 pieces. So platelets are actually just pieces of cells. Nevertheless, we call them thrombocytes, right? So that word thrombo is going to mean something to do with like platelets or clotting. So, and then the rest of these cells are the white blood, which we're going to go over. Notice over here, so these are lymphocytes. And so if you go up here to the top, pluripotent stem cells. Cells delineate in myeloid and lymphoid stem cells, right? And so you notice that if you follow myeloid stem cells down, they become everything else. Lymphoid stem cells are just for lymphocytes. So that's like so lymphocytes are obviously like special cells, right? So you can see that they're going to become T cells and B cells. That's not so important for right now. We're going to talk about that in once we get to immunity. But for now, so I'm going to skip over this because we already discussed this. And we discussed this. So that's already been done. That's been done. So there we go. White blood cells. So you need to know that. And so I wrote it here. There's 5 different white blood cells. That's what they look like. And because we used to look at them under a microscope, now we don't, but you notice that they look kind of different. So eosinophil, basophil, neutrophil. And you notice that over on the right, I wrote granular and agranular. I don't know that that's so important to know anymore. Let's just keep it in your head anyway, because nowadays we don't really look at these slides. It just means when you look at it under a microscope, does it look grainy or not? I mean, that's really what it is. All right, so that's not a big deal. But I would like you to know what high levels of these indicate. And it's all marked down here. Right, and so as I was saying in class, like I was giving the example of pneumonia, right? So if you have pneumonia, you need to know if it's viral or bacterial, because you can treat bacterial pneumonia. And viral pneumonia, you can't do so much about. So lymphocytes, a high number of lymphocytes would indicate a viral infection versus a high number of neutrophils indicating a bacterial infection. And then we have other things. Monocytes. So if you check out monocytes here, see, by the way, all of these, this is the nucleus, right? It looks like there's 2 nuclei in here. It's just one. It looks like this one has a few. It's just one. They're being joined by that little, we call them like a little isthmus. They're being joined right to there. Right, so anyway, these are all the nuclei. And really, when we look at cells, we pretty much look at the nuclei. We're not looking at the cells. Our eyes focus in on the nuclei or the nucleus. So look at this nucleus. It looks like a Pac-Man. It looks like it's going to eat something. Right, and so that monocytes are also phagocytes, meaning that they eat other things, like they surround it, they engulf it, and they eat it. the nucleus is kind of looking like that's what it's going to do. But the cell itself will do that. We call that phagocytosis. So monocytes are also referred to as phagocytes, or there's another word called macrophages. And that's coming later anyway. So what do I want you to know from this slide? These high, what a high level of each of these would indicate. A low level indicates something as well, but I mean, it's just, I can't put everything, right? So high levels indicate these things. So in the case of monocyte, fungus infection, tuberculosis. Leukocytosis and leukopenia. Penia means like low, I guess. For example, you could say like sarcopenia, like low muscle mass, right? So like leukopenia means a low white blood cell count under, let me let this person in. So you have about 5,000 to 10,000 white blood cells per drop, per microliter. So if you have too many white blood cells, leukocytosis, that could indicate some kind of other infection, something else that's going on, maybe an autoimmune disease, who knows. And then leukopenia, you're expected to have a certain number of white blood cells under normal circumstances. So if you don't have enough, what's going on? Is it leukemia? Is it something wrong with your bone marrow? Like, what is it? Are these white blood cells getting eaten up, even though they shouldn't be? So anyway, that's leukopenia, leukocytosis. So that's the white blood cells, and that's from the last lecture. So you need to know that for the quiz. You're going to need to know this for the quiz. So here we're talking about, so we talked about red blood cells, we talked about white blood cells, and now we're going to talk about platelets. Platelets / clotting. So it's kind of, it's a little confusing, but I look at it like this. Hold on. Sorry, I'm letting people in. All right, I look at it this way. If you get a small cut on your hand, a pin prick, scrape your knee, you're not going to make a blood clot for that. That's platelets. Platelets can handle that. You're breaking small blood vessels. You're breaking capillaries. So you only need platelets. Because making clots are dangerous, actually. Because that clot can get free and not go where it's supposed to be and get stuck in your head or your lungs and cause some trouble. So you don't want to make clots for no reason. So platelets, you could just take pieces of the cell, those platelets, and just plug up the hole. And so that's what happens with most things, with most small injuries. They're just platelets, they plug the hole up, and that's it. And that's what's happening here if you look at this photo. Now, you notice that I circled 1, 2, and 3. I don't care about that. I really don't. Platelet adhesion and platelet release reaction. Who cares? I want you just to have an idea of what's going on. Well, first of all, look at the platelets. So here they're round, here they're not round, right? So they've changed their shape, they've changed their behavior. That's the first thing. And the second thing is that they're all sticking together. So what happens is that they get exposed. So if you look at these, look at these yellow, these are yellow, these yellow cells here. Those are your endothelial cells, epithelial cells, right? That in a blood vessel, we call it endothelium. It's the endothelium, the lining of your blood vessel. I don't know if you've ever seen like when they're doing demolition and they start breaking up the concrete, like the cement foundation, and then you see the metal rebar sticking out of it. So if you've seen like a damaged building, you always see the metal sticking out of it, right? That's kind of like what collagen fibers are for this. So when these blood vessels, when this endothelium gets damaged, the collagen fibers are sticking out the end. And that's a signal to the platelets to start getting together, start plugging that up. So when that happens, the platelets start to like look at their shape, right? They start to make these projections and then they start to become sticky and they grab onto other platelets that are going by. And then when you look at the bottom thing, they form a plug, right? So they're releasing 3 chemicals that help them do this. The first one is ADP. So ADP, and that's the same ADP. If you're thinking like ADP is part of ATP, I mean, that's what it is. So ADP makes other platelets sticky. So does this thing called thromboxane A2. And I've just abbreviated it right here. So I'm saying ADP, and here I'm putting THA2. TH stands for thromboxane. So THROMBOXANE. Thromboxane A2 also does the same thing. So ADP and thromboxane A2 do the same thing. They make other platelets sticky. Thromboxane A2 makes other platelets sticky, and thromboxane A2 happens to also be a vasoconstrictor. You want to constrict the blood vessel before the area where you have blood loss so that you can slow the amount of blood leaking from the vessel. Serotonin is also a vasoconstrictor. So you have ADP and thromboxane A2. They both make platelets sticky. Thromboxane A2 and serotonin are both vasoconstrictors. You might think of serotonin as some other function, and you're right, it does. These chemicals do many things in our body depending on where they are. So in this case, in this particular location, serotonin is acting as a vasoconstrictor. Somewhere else in your body, maybe it helps you with your mood or helps you sleep or helps you, it's an appetite suppressant, right? So it does different things. Here, this is what it's doing. So I want you to have an idea of those 3 chemicals. So in the question, I'll be looking for you mentioning those 3 chemicals. Again, don't put platelet release reaction and all that. I don't care about that. They're getting sticky. They're changing their behavior. They're all sticking together and they're forming a plug. And that's it. Okay, so that's one way. There's actually 3 ways to slow blood flow. One way is called, which I'm not going to ask you, it's called vascular spasm. And all that is you constrict the blood vessel at the place before the injury. For example, like if you make a clean cut on your arm, like if someone's arm gets cut off, your arteries will go through vascular spasm and they'll actually retract into your arm, and the muscles will contract. Sorry, the muscles will contract, and you don't have as much blood loss as you might think. So it's not like on TV, although that'd be kind of cool. If it gets like, if you lose your arm, like it gets like ripped off, yeah, I mean, that's different. But anyway, that's an example of a vascular spasm. And we're not going to really talk about that one because, I mean, who cares about that one? But we are going to talk about, the other 2. We've already talked about platelet plugs. So you have vascular spasm, platelet plugs, and then third, coagulation. coagulation involves making like a clot, right? So you're going to make these things called fibrin threads, and they're kind of showing it here. So these fibrin threads are going to form like a net, and that net is going to catch platelets, red blood cells, white blood cells, and just form a big mass, a big embolus. So that's what clots are. If you're going to die from bleeding out, make a blood clot, right? But blood clots suck because you got to make sure that you break them up. And so you're going to see that happens to a lot of people that are in hospitals for a long time. They start throwing clots, and then these clots, although they can stick in many places, but they usually plug up small blood vessels. So capillaries in your lungs, capillaries in your brain. So you can stroke out from that. Anyway, so your body wants to, your body sometimes needs to make them, but it better be important, right? So there's a process that it goes through. And unfortunately for you, all the clotting factors, which is like the thing you really should know, but whatever. So these clotting factors, and you have these two words, extrinsic and intrinsic. Hold on. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
All right. Oh, somebody went to Nunez to go take the test. Come to the virtual class. Poor girl. She hasn't had, I know she hasn't had electricity, so. That live down in Plaquemines, Port Sulphur, all that. Man, every time they got to like drive all the way up and go find someone to stay with. So extrinsic, intrinsic pathway, it just means, all that means is, where did the damage come? Did it come from the outside? Did you get stabbed? That's in extrinsic pathway. Did something damage it from the inside? Intrinsic pathway. So in either event, you have an enzyme getting formed called prothrombinase. And so that's where we're going to really start it. And actually, I'm going to go to the next slide because the next slide explains it. So prothrombinase, so when you see the word pro before something, that's a way of saying it's like a precursor. Like I've been telling you that about OGEN. If something ends with OGE, like this, fibrinogen, it ends with OGEN. That means it's an inactive enzyme. But there's enzymes that end with ASE. Like most enzymes end with ASE. So thrombin enzyme. So you can't call it OGEN. I guess it sounds too weird. So what they do instead is they say prothrombinase. So like that. They don't use OGEN, but it means the same thing. All right. So prothrombinase converts enzyme in you right now, an inactive enzyme called prothrombin. So prothrombinase is going to convert that prothrombin to thrombin. Thrombin, which is another enzyme, these are all enzymes. Thrombin is going to turn around and convert fibrinogen or fibrinogen to fibrin. So remember, fibrinogen is one of your plasma proteins. If you activate that, you're going to turn it into a thread that will start making a net and making a clot. So you don't want to activate that. So you want to make sure that something is wrong. So thrombin is the only thing that can activate that fibrinogen. But thrombin will never get made unless it's converted from prothrombin. So it's like because you're essentially launching a nuclear missile in your body. So you want to, it's like taking two keys and putting them in simultaneously and turning them. That's what it's like. So that's why your body's got this process set up between two conversions. And I've summed it all up and on this slide, right? And then plasmin is when you hear about like giving people clot busters when they're stroking out, like during a stroke activation, they're giving something equivalent to plasmin, right? So plasmin is pretty much the only thing that can dissolve fibrin. So they call them like fibrinolytic or fibrinolytic agents. It's plasmin. So that's coagulation. So we have platelet plugs and we have coagulation. Coagulation is like when platelets aren't going to solve the problem. We're almost done. Oh yeah, I'm probably going to go to 9:35. This is blood typing. So all cells in your body have this other marker on them. They're called MHC molecules. And they mark your cells as belonging to specifically you. Our blood cells are a little bit different. They don't have these MHC markers. They have either A or B. So it's either you have A, or you could have B, or you could have both A and B, or you could have nothing on your blood cells. So they're just markers saying that they belong to you. So, so what happens is that your body will not recognize something that is foreign if there's nothing on it. So if this, like this blood cell here, type O, it's naked, right? There's nothing on it. So that's fine. Your body will not recognize that as being a foreign body. But if you have an antigen on it, it better be your antigen. So if you have type A blood and you get type A blood from somebody, you're set. If you have type A blood and you get type O blood, you're also fine because it doesn't have anything on it. So you don't recognize that anything's wrong. If you're type A, obviously, that's a foreign, those little light teal colored arrows, that's a foreign antigen. So your body will attack it. Same thing if you get type AB blood. The A is fine because you're type A and there's type A, but there's the type B again. So, so type O can donate to anybody. That's why I put them as a universal donor. In fact, negative. So that's a factor we have to consider. But O, nothing on that can go to anybody. But if you're type AB, you can't give your blood to anybody else but an AB. If I give it to any of these other three types, it's not going to work. There's something on here that would be foreign. Right? That's why I put there the universal recipient. They can get blood from anyone. And to be more particular, like let's add the other thing to it. There's something called RH factor. Either you have the RH or you don't. If you have it, you're plus. If you don't have it, you're minus. A minus can always donate to a plus. Someone that doesn't have something can always donate to somebody that has it. Just like type O can always donate to type A or B, but not the reverse. So negative blood types can donate to positive. Positive can never donate negative because now you're introducing something new into the body. So to revise this, O negative is the universal donor. Their blood is naked, nothing on it, the blood cells, right? And they can donate that blood to anybody. The universal recipient, it's not AB negative, because then he can't get positive blood. It's AB positive. AB positive blood types can get blood from absolutely anybody. It just doesn't matter. There's nothing new that you're introducing to AB positive blood. So So I hope that made sense. Questions? I've got one more slide. Let's go back to that RH factor. Either you're negative or you're positive. So you're always A, B, O, A, B, but then added to that, you're plus or negative, positive or negative, right? So in this, we call this is hemolytic disease of the newborn. Hemolytic, hemo meaning blood, red blood cells, lytic meaning lysis. So you're breaking, I put it up here in black, blood cell burning disease. Hemolytic disease of the newborn. So here's how it works. Mother's negative, RH negative, whatever, A negative, B negative, AB negative, O negative, doesn't matter, negative. Father's positive. So there's a chance that that baby is going to be RH positive while you're RH negative. Now it's not a problem because they give you, like they give you something for it, right? It's automatic. You get tested, and if you're negative, they're probably just going to give it to you. They're not even going to test the father. They're just going to give it to you. So, but let's say that didn't happen. First baby's positive. So this positive baby inside the negative mother is protected. So the mother doesn't actually know. You're not going to develop any antibodies against the baby, that first baby, right? Because the womb's really protective like that. But then when you're giving birth, now you're exposed to that baby's blood, and you start to develop antibodies against anything with an Rh positive. So the second baby, if the second baby's Rh positive, at that point, the mother's body will attack it. So that's what it's all about, right? Because you don't develop antibodies until you get, except for a vaccine, until you get exposed, right? You got to be exposed to the thing to develop it, right? So you're not exposed until until you actually give birth. So the second pregnancy, that's where the problem is. But again, they give you stuff, give you a shot and take care of it. It's amazing, really, because you think about it. Well, how many babies would, let's say we didn't have any of this and we didn't know about Rh positive and negative. How many miscarriages would we have then, right? And think about the other thing, the cephalic whatever, where the kid's head's too big and can't even think of these bones and stuff. But you know what I'm saying, the cubic, good thing I'm recording this. But you know what I'm saying, right? Head's too big to get out, right? And so they slice you open and do a cesarean and take it out, right? A lot of that. What would happen to all those mothers? So even today, we have like 20 to 25% miscarriages. What happened 25 years ago? Or I'm sorry, 100 years ago? I mean, kind of amazing to think about it. These people that should have, my kids, big heads, they still got big heads because they're teenagers. All right, do you guys have any questions? I blew through that, but that covers all the questions. So, a question about hemolysis of the newborn. Clotting, platelet plugs. Now I'm on 3. White blood cells. What are the types of white blood cells and what do a high level indicate? So that's 4 questions. Question 5, I'm going to recycle the life cycle of erythrocytes question. Now I'm at 5 questions. Question 6, plasma proteins. So I'll probably take 5 questions out of those 6. This is just a quiz. So it's all going to be on blood. It's all in one chapter. Everything that you need is, if you go into modules and go to the quiz 2 videos, it's all there. We're going to do that in class. Nunez is they've got electricity, so they're going to open tomorrow for sure. So, got any questions?
Yeah,
I
about
had to
the
pause. Oh,
you go
All right, Ken.
about the lab work. That
Yeah,
was due the 28th. Want to know if did you push it back any?
yeah. They're honestly they're all automatically pushed back. I left them all up until the end of the semester, but I put due date because I want to like pace you guys along. So it'll still let you in.
Thank you.
Klaus, could you say one more time what's going to be on the quiz? I'm
Yeah,
sorry, I missed it.
it's okay. And I'm going to go in order. Plasma proteins. What are the three plasma proteins? And you know, what do they do? Just like a sentence. Question 2. The fate of erythrocytes. I believe that's what I'm calling it on the test. Meaning, like, what happens to red blood cells when they die? That's probably the longest question. The part about the iron and the pigment, urobilinogen, stercobilin, all that stuff. That's question 2. Question 3. White blood cells, the leukocytes. What are the 5 types of white blood cells? Eosinophil, basophil, monocyte, those. And what would a high level indicate? So that's that slide. It has, well, here, I can pull it up. Sorry about the background noise. Question 3, right there. That slide answers question 3.
We
Question,
can't see the slides.
oh, did I stop sharing? Hold on. No. You guys can't see the slides?
I was able to see it.
Yeah,
Oh, no, I can't see it.
can you see him right now?
Yes.
If not, you have to go pin. I think if you go in the upper right corner where you see all the pictures and stuff, you have to pin it, I think. But in any event, it's recording, so you could just go to like when I put the recording up there, go to, oh, I don't know what minute I'm at. All right, anyway, go to the end of the lecture. So so let me go over this again. Question 1. Question 2. No arrows, by the way. You write this out like in a narrative, like in a paragraph form. I'm just being lazy. That doesn't mean you can. Question 2. Question 3. What the high levels indicate. I want you to know what leukocytosis and leukopenia are. That just means over 10,000 white blood cells or under 5,000 white blood cells per microliter. Question 4. And I'm looking for the chemicals here. The 3 chemicals: ADP, thromboxane A2, and serotonin. What do they do? And then besides that, you could just say, yeah, they change their shape and they all stick together. That's good enough. That's question 4. Question 5, right there. I might put question 4 and 5 together as one question, but what I'm saying is that that's another thing you need to know. So that's question 5. Question 6. What is hemolytic disease of the newborn? What's the universal recipient? What's the universal donor? I guess that's it. I had more. I thought I had one more. So question 1.
The hell? Thank you.
Yeah. So is that? I think that gets it all. Okay. Any other questions before I stop recording? Too late. I stopped recording.